So initially I wasn't actually going to talk about this deck, but the reveals are actually pretty interesting. And while the deck is very straightforward for a Dark Side deck, set orders, restanding, so 5 attacks, drive +1, the deck is actually pretty exciting. I think it's like a little bit better of a version than Harry. Harry was just really slow, and this deck seems to be a little bit faster. The early game doesn't seem to be amazing, but the turn 3 does seem really good. Alright, so starting with the Rideline, we have the starter Cute Teddy Bear TT, and it is a D starter, so of course it's got the going second draw 1 effect, and it has the Happy Toys clause, so this is a clause that's basically a keyword, kind of like glitter, that says that all these cards are Happy Toys, and this is basically only matters for the set order because you can target them, so like 90% of your deck is basically Happy Toys, and you can deck them with the order and call them out with Van's skill. Alright, so moving on to the grade 1, we have the Merry-Go-Round Soldier Nachu, and so auto when placed by writing from the Cute Teddy Bear TT, so you do have to have the correct starter. You cast reveal a grade 3 with Heartluru in his card name from your ride deck, search your deck for up to 1 Toys Are For Kids, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. Auto back row center rearguard circle, when it's placed by a card ability, if your opponent's Vanguard is a grade 3 greater, and your bind zone does not have a Cute Teddy Bear TT in its cost, cast counter +1, bind a Cute Teddy Bear TT from your soul, so essentially it's like once per game divine skill, very similar to like Go Yusha, Dayusha, because unless you can empty your bind, you're only using the skill once. And then search your deck for up to 1 Toys Are For Kids, reveal it, and put it to your hand and shuffle your deck. So essentially, unless you're against like Soldier Doji or something that can mess with your bind, you're getting this off once per game. So because each of the Rideline, the 1 and the 2, which we'll get to next, both search the set order, and using the skill as well, once you call it out of soul using Heartluru's skill, you'll essentially have 3 set orders set up. So this will matter later when I talk about Avarice, Wrestlers, and other generics. But for now, you're basically guaranteed 2 set orders, and then a third one if you pay the CB for this cost. Alright, so finally we have the set order itself, Toys Are For Kids, and you'll notice that Ava is also in the art from the Kraylore. So continuous, if you have a Happy Toys Vanguard or Great Third Grader Vanguard with Heartluru in its card name, this card gets all the following, so pretty much guaranteed throughout your Rideline. You can play it from turn 1 all the way up to turn 3, so again, you get those 3 set orders active by turn 3, and then hopefully get the 4th one by your 4th turn. So auto when this put into the order zone, look at top 5, choose the 2 Happy Toys from among them, and this is basically all of the Happy Toy cards that we've gone over, and reveal them. Choose a card from among them, put it into hand, and put the rest into soul. So kind of like Torrential Research, you're revealing 2, the first one goes into hand, and then the rest go into soul, so already decked in 2 immediately, which is really good, because you're definitely playing this turn 1, turn 2, and turn 3, because you want to get those 3 set orders in, and then of course have the 4th one for the full effects of Heartluru. And then the second act is in the order zone, you can cost rest 2 cards with the same name as this card, choose a Happy Toys from your drop and put into soul, so you can salvage any of your pieces, including the Rideline. So honestly, this card is really solid. Again, going from grades 1 to 3, you're playing 1 every turn, and you can essentially think of it like Torrential Research doing deck thin and adding new cards to hand. And at the same time, money is also deck thinning as well, selectively from your deck. So naturally, it has a lot of deck thin, just like Ava. And of course, your goal is to have 4 of these in set orders for the full effects of Heartluru. And then once you have 4, you can use this cost twice in order to rest and salvage every turn, essentially salvaging 2. And then you'll have basically 2 cards you can call for free from Heartluru to build a board. So honestly, really solid card all around. Already having 2 effects, and it's a rare, so like it's pretty straightforward to get. And it's like really easy to set up as well due to the Rideline, because you'll have 2 guaranteed search, again, 1 from the grade 1 if you pay that CB, and then you have to find just the 4th one naturally, but you're usually going to mulligan for it anyways and find it, hopefully. Or if you damage it, you can grab it off Fuwafuwa. So honestly, really solid card all around. So for the next one, we have Coaster Shark, which is the grade 2 of the Rideline. So auto when placed by writing from Merry-Go-Round Soldier Nachu, which is the grade 1 of the Rideline. Cost reveal grade 3 with Heartluru in his card for your ride deck. Search your deck for up to 1 Toys Are For Kids. Reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle your deck. And then auto rearguard circle, front right specifically. At the end of the battle, attack to rearguard. If your order zone has a Toys Are For Kids and the entire Rideline searches it, you get 2 guaranteed. And this unit is placed from soul this turn. You cost soul +1, stand this unit. So basically what you need to know for this grade 2 is that you're guaranteed 1 of these set order, and the restand skill is also guaranteed because Heartluru calls from soul. So you basically have that auto front row rearguard circle skill. If you don't have the other beater set up, guarantee that you can call from soul. So finally we have the boss unit, which is Sugary and Scary Land Heartluru. So continuous Vanguard circle during your turn. If your order zone has 3 or more Toys Are For Kids, which is the set order, all of your front row units get plus 5k. So you're guaranteed 2 of them. You can get the 3rd one off the grade 1, but you do have the CB for it, and your opponent has to be on grade 3. So you're basically always going to mulligan for the set order anyways, and you can play Avarice Restander to guarantee the 3rd and 4th one, but we'll get to that later once we talk about generics. And then the second skill is active Vanguard circle once per turn. Energy +3, choose Happy Toys from your soul, up to the same number of Toys Are For Kids in your order zone. So basically up to the number of set orders you have basically, and call them to Rearguard Circle. So you're essentially making a free board. It's very similar to Dolls. The third skill is Auto Vanguard Circle. Once returned, when this unit attacks, you counterboss 1, perform all the following based on the number of toys for kids in your order zone. So 2 or more, choose happy toys in your front row, stand it, and it gets power plus 10k until end of turn. For 3 or more this turn, this unit gets power plus 5k, and if your opponent's Vanguard is a Grade 3 Gator, you get drive plus 1, so twin drive, drive plus 1, basically triple drive, but it's technically not triple drive. And then 4 or more, choose a happy toys in your front row, stand it, and it gets power plus 10k until end of turn. So you're doing 5 attacks. If you don't count Shark, then technically 6, but Shark has to attack a rear guard, and they're all getting plus 10, and a lot of the other raids get plus 10. So there's also a grade 1 Restander as well, so your columns are honestly looking pretty decent. You're reaching usually around 28s, usually bigger, especially on Persona turn, and your Vanguard is automatically going to be, once you use the, basically once you have the front row plus 5, plus the plus 5 from his own skill for the 3 or more, you're basically swinging with a 23, 3 drives van, and you also have a really good boosters as well, and restanding columns. So it's a pretty straightforward deck, and the set order and the bunny, which we'll get to later, does a lot of deck thinning. So it's a very standard Dark States deck, but I think it plays really well, and I really do like the aesthetic of the deck, and I saw a lot of people hyping up the deck as well. So that basically covers what there is to say about Heartluru. It's a pretty solid Vanguard. You're getting drive plus 1, you're getting power during your turn, you're restanding 2 units, giving them plus 10, and honestly getting the 4 more isn't that hard because there is, again, 2 from the Rideline, 1 from the grade 1 if your opponent's grade 3 greater, but you do have to burn that extra CB, which isn't the hardest thing in the world, honestly. And then you just have to basically mulligan or draw the 4th one. So for the support cards, first off, we have probably one of the best ones, Giant Fuwafuwa here. So we have when he's placed on Rearguard Circle, costs Soul Blast 2, choose a toys out for kids from your drop or damage zone and put it to your hand. If you put it from damage zone, put the top card of your deck into your damage zone. And Kairos also notes in his translation that it's face up and not face down. So usually all these standard cards usually have face down, but it's pretty interesting that you actually get to keep the CB for the skill if you have to grab the set order from damage. And then auto front row Rearguard Circle, when it's stand by the ability of your grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Heartluru in its name. This turn, it gets continuous Rearguard Circle. During the battle, this unit attacked. When your opponent would call a Guardian, they must call 2 or more at the same time. So basically the double battle door effect and power plus 10. So this card is really solid because not only are you salvaging toys from orders in case you damage one to guarantee you get the 4, as well as from drop, you're basically guaranteeing that you're having all 4 set up because again, you're already getting 2 from the Rideline, you search 1, and then this, when you have to ditch it for ride up or if it gets damaged, you can salvage it. And then the restand ability is really strong because Battle Door is always good, especially when your opponent's at lethal damage. Because you're doing 3 drives, your chances of hitting a crit are pretty high. And because you're getting plus 10, plus the plus 10 from Heartluru, plus the plus 5 from the front row, your power stacks really fast. And this isn't even counting boosters either. So your numbers are already pretty decent, already hitting over basically 1 or 2 defensives, basically asking for 2-hand guard already. But in the options where your opponent has to PG this swing, it's really annoying and you're getting extra card out of their hand. Moving on, we have Shiny Bunny. When it's used, placed on Rearguard Circle, if your order zone has a toys out for kids, look at the top 3, choose the 1 card from among them, put it to soul, shuffle the deck. So on place, just free deck thin and free shuffle. It's just that good. And then auto left row, back row, Rearguard Circle. When your happy toys in the same cause this unit stands, you may stand this unit. If you do at the end of turn, retire this unit. And of course has a happy toys clause like all the other keyword of the other cards. So unfortunately, because it's locked to left back row Rearguard Circle specifically, you can't use this with the Fuwafuwa that we just talked about, but it does work with the next card we're going to talk about, which is the Kaiju, and has a crit when it restands. Alright, so next up we have Toy Kaiju Belbos, which is auto when placed on Rearguard Circle. If your order zone has toys out for kids, cost counterboss 1, draw 1. If your opponent's Vanguard is grade 3 good, it gets power plus 5. So interesting to note that the on place CB1 draw 1 is not grade locked. You can do that early. Auto front left Rearguard Circle, when it's stood by the ability of your grade 3 or greater Vanguard with Heartluru in its name, this turn this unit gets crit plus 1. So plus 5, plus 10, plus 5, he's already reaching 30, and then with the 8 restand boost from Bunny, you're at 38 with 2 crits. So already guaranteed 2 hand guards, and if you're flipping a bunch of triggers, basically reaching like 48, 58. So already solid numbers. Guaranteed crit on restand's really good because this deck is doing 5 swings, 6 if you count Shark swinging into a rear. But you know, that attack isn't going into a Vanguard, it has to attack a rearguard. Already having a crit restander that you're basically guaranteed because this deck has so much filter between Bunny and other cards is really good. And again, you can always ditch him and then use the set order to salvage him back into Soul and then call him out. You have Block Horse, which is auto back right specific Rearguard Circle. This unit gets intercept and can intercept from the back row. And then continuous Garden Circle. If your order zone has a toys out for kids, it gets shield plus 5, so it becomes 10k shield. You're probably only playing like 2 or 3 of this max. This card is pretty straightforward, but I mean, it only has that ability in the auto backward right Rearguard Circle, so you're basically only putting it behind Fuwafuwa, and then Bunny and the crit restander, the Kaiju, are going to be in your left column. So now to quickly cover the generics of the deck, they're pretty straightforward. you do have energy to work with, but you do want to E3 every turn for Heartluru's skill in order to just make a free board. So you can run Tiz card, but it's a little bit awkward and I honestly wouldn't recommend it. You could probably play 2 to 3 in the slot of the Persona Shield Cycler if you want, Colorful Magician Rayvos. And Rayvos is really solid because whenever you're ditching him or calling and revealing something from the ride deck that's for Sun Ride, you just Soul Blast 1, get a 10k shield to your hand, and he's also a good beater as well. A lot of the times though, you'll want the specific kaiju and Fuwafuwa in the front row because you want to get that battle door plus 10 and the crit on restand for your rears. But honestly, he's still a really good passive, and he kind of is just an early game card you can slam down with Bunny and not really care about if he dies because you'll still have the 10k shield in your hand. And then for the other toy pieces, when you ditch them for ride up, you're going to basically Soul Blast and salvage them back with the set order's second skill anyways. So honestly, Rayvos works really well with the deck. Alright, so the other card to talk about is the Opener of Heart Philya, which is basically the Shenri clone. This card works really well because you're playing basically a set order every turn because your Rideline already searches it, and Philya just shoves a soul draw 1. Like, there's no reason not to play this, and it also does not need to be locked to a specific rearguard circle when boosting, unlike, let's say, the specific Restander booster that has to be like in left back row, and then Block Horse, which has to be in the right back row. So honestly, Philya is probably a guaranteed 4F. If you want to play this deck, definitely pick up 4. You can get them from the Youthquake manga. You could probably find them at your book provider, or check out the Vanguard website, or ask around at your locals. It shouldn't be too expensive. I believe it's around 15 to 20, which actually does sound pretty bad, but if you can find a deal and get a playset, it shouldn't be that bad. I believe it was around 15 to 20 before. I could be wrong, but yeah, definitely a must pick up for the deck. It's just that good. It's just cycle, 13k booster, and draw 1. Alright, so next thing I want to talk about is Avarice Rester, and I kind of put this to the end of the video because I don't really like talking about this as much because I'm honestly a little bit torn about playing it. While I haven't done that much proxy playtesting of this, just theoretically from the deck, because your Rideline is already guaranteeing you 3, it's a little bit redundant. I think at most you would play 1 or 2 of this card just to guarantee that you get the 4th one, because the 4th one guarantees you 5 attacks, and that extra restand and plus 10k to the rear that you restand is really big. That's already getting like guaranteed at least 1 or 2 cards out of your opponent's hand, especially on Persona Ride turn when you have 3 drives is pretty scary. So I think Avarice Rester is kind of something you want to consider maybe as a 1 or 2 of, again, because you're basically having to -1. You don't mind pitching a happy toy from your hand because again, your set order can salvage it back. It's not that big of a cost, but it's still a -1 essentially to set up the 4th set order that you usually want to avoid. At worst, you damage it and use like Fuwafuwa skill to grab the set order back to hand, and then you already have basically all 4 setup as soon as you use the grade 1 Rideline skill to bind and then search the last one you need. But yeah, your goal is to play set order every turn, so in case you somehow don't find the 3rd or 4th one, Avarice Rester is there as your backup. So I think this card is really, really expensive because of Odium, but you can definitely consider 1 or 2. I would probably pick up 1, maybe 2. It really depends. I would wait to see what other people are cooking with deck lists, like when the set releases in JP. But I think Avarice Rester is still a really solid option for the deck because you do want to guarantee that 4th one so you get all the effects of Heartluru. Alright, so the last 2 cards I want to talk about are the Ace unit and the Amethyst Cat. So the Amethyst Cat is pretty straightforward. It's just remove ride deck CC. At worst, it's just a 20k shield. You have no CC that's really that great in Dark States unless you're running like Caliburn as your Regulus piece. So it's honestly just kind of a must-need one-of, unless you don't feel like CB is that big of an issue that you can probably cut it. The other really good generic is the Ace unit, and the Ace units in Festival are just really good, especially the Dark States one. So the Dark States one, in case you don't know, is basically E3, check top 7, jump something to Soul, and then choose anything from Soul and call it. So between this and Van's skill, it feels a little bit redundant because Van's skill for every set order you have, basically the Happy Toys set order, you're basically calling 1 from Soul anyway. So if once you have 3 turn 3, you're essentially plussing 3. So this is more just E3ing for selective deck then. And while you're probably not reaching the 5 or more cards, or if you Soul Blast this turn, Soul Blast 3 or more this turn, unless you somehow shove like 3 Persona Cyclers out of your hand, you're probably not getting the extra +5. So he's only a 20k beater, and you'll probably end up overcalling him anyways because your beaters are xenophobic for specific rearguard circles. So he's kind of a bit awkward. I think you want to try him out 1 in playtesting, and hopefully it won't be too much when Festival actually comes out in, I believe, 2 months for English. But yeah, anyways, pretty solid option for the deck. I did see some people trying it out in deck lists, but yeah, because it conflicts in energy with Luru, it might be a little bit awkward. Because like if you think about it that way, this card, not that I'm saying you shouldn't try it or playtest it, you definitely should. But like if you think about it in comparison to Heartluru's Van skill, Heartluru's Van skill is plussing you 3, while this is technically only plussing you 1. But this is also deck thinning 1. And I think that value is really high in a deck where you're deck thinning every turn from the set order or with Bunny. So honestly, really solid option for the deck. For regular pieces, it kind of doesn't really matter, to be honest. I think you go Caliburn or Twincast. You can also go the other ones. It's not too big of a deal. But I mean, if you're trying to play this deck at the best it can be, then probably Twincast or Caliburn are the way. Alright, so one last card I want to talk about that I kind of forgot about is the Dual Nation for Darkstace and Braincake, which is Darkbond Abyss, Surga, and Dargig. And this card is a little bit tricky because you are building set order, so it's really solid, but it does use that CB cost. Technically, you can deck in for free with the first on place, but you do have to pay that CB cost to use the second skill, which is choose a grade 2 or greater unit card from your soul, put it into hand, so you salvage Persona Rides and recycle it, or you choose set order for your soul and put it to hand. But most of the time, again, you're already declining 3 off your Rideline for the set order. So unless you somehow soul charge it, which this deck doesn't really do unless you put it in through Bunny, it's not really a great salvage, and burning that CB for the turn feels really bad. But I mean, it's still a solid option. I don't really think it's a must need pickup. I think your priority is still Philya into Persona Shield Cycler likely, because you don't really use that much shield besides Fuwafuwa skill, and then maybe 2 or 3 of Surga and Dargig. Honestly, not the biggest deal. Really nice that it salvages Persona Ride. That's definitely the biggest one, and it's more decked in on top of your deck that is already decked in a lot between the set order and Bunny. But yeah, definitely a really solid card if you want to pick up. It shouldn't be too expensive, and it is getting reprinted in Festival 2025, so just wanted to note that as well. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Let me know what you think of this deck. I think it's definitely one of the most exciting reveals we've had, besides, for me, like Sibylt and maybe Daikaiser. Also, we're getting Ezel next week on Thursday, which is really exciting, and the Brave Ravin collab, which is supposedly going to have a new D Legion as well, so next week. So I'll either make one video and try and combine it, or just try and make the usual Tuesday video and see how that goes. But yeah, definitely stay tuned for those new Vanguard reveals. You can find them on the official JP channel, and I'll do my best to update them here as well. So thank you so much for watching.